So my goal here is we just bought the SPY. We're trying to see if with this 570 basically bounces. If it doesn't, I'll cut it, take the loss. If it does, I'll scalp out some position. Why are you done typing today? Am I missing your comments, Rich? Uber pulling back some. Yeah, I think the whole market's starting to get a little pullback on this. Okay, so let's see if we can get this bounce started here on the SPY. Yeah, James, that's extremely important. Oh, you're misspelling everything. Yeah, it's one of those days. All right, we're getting close to my stop out here, guys, on the SPY. So I think that the goal here is this 570 range to hold, right? I'm gonna give it 1 minute. If it stays at this level, I'm out. I just added since I'm right at my stop out range, right? This is the best risk reward that I can get. Yeah, the whole market's pulling back, right? So whatever, if you were in something, you're probably pulling back as well. All right, sell algos still going. VIX climbing. I'm putting in an order to buy Uber. Oops. If it breaks 75.50. Does that make sense? So like if it goes above 75.50, I will buy Uber. Yeah, I can do a lesson today on inside candles and different ways I play them. Absolutely, Jimmy. Can you remind me after the open? So if I can get this SPY to come back to 570.50, 571, I will take partial profits. If it breaks lows now, I just have to stop out and I can reassess. So the SPY targets would be to try to take it back up into these levels here and take some profits off. And then what that would do is basically lower the cost basis from my buys in here back down to here. And then that's when we would start looking for a, push back up into the purple lines here, right? What was the SPY trade? I'm trying to bounce this pullback. And 570 is my risk level, and we're just hovering around there. So now that we've bounced a little bit, my hard stop is low of day, right? So if we start to break lows, I have to stop out. The goal again is we're trying to catch this quote unquote knife and just catch a little bounce up into here, take some off, free up the lizard brain, monkey brain, whatever you want to call it. Is it going to happen? I don't know. We're getting a lot of selling, and we're getting a lot of the VIX is rising, right? So there's some fear. But if again, I don't use the ticks like Nate does. But if you look at this, we do have some buying in certain areas. So there. If you were to look at a heat map right now, you're going to find certain areas that are green. So it's not just that everything is selling. Does that make sense? So you can see how the VIX, the UVXY, and all everything's like, it's just boom, 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 it's climbing, and you see how red, it's like sell, 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 right? So we've got a lot of sell algos that are just selling, 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 and fear that is causing the VIX to rise. And so what we have to do to get a bounce in this is, these sell algos have to slow down and or the buy algos speed up, or any combination of the two here. Does that make sense? Yeah, maybe people cautious before the 10 o'clock data. Could be. It also could be just that we got a huge rally into the end of the day, right? And now they're okay. Hold on one sec. I got to take some profits here. Okay, again, this is a great lesson to understand how you, yeah, it could be the strikes, right? People are afraid of the strikes. How you catch and absorb, right? So 570 was that level. I didn't know if it was going to hold on the VP levels here or if it was going to come down here and test this double bottom. A lot of times they want to break this, make a new lower low. They did, right? They wash people out. That allows, if you have enough buyers, that allows for a quick bounce. And now we'll see, is this going to be a failed breakdown? Or is it going to roll over and come all the way back down to the next level? For it to be a failed breakdown, in my opinion, you got to get over 571. And then that will give you the path of least resistance at that point would be up. So we need to get above these levels for me to be like, hey, okay, here we go, right? We're good. Which is another way of saying, if you wanted to short off these levels, I think it's a good short, right? Path of least resistance right now is down. Yes. Okay, PMI out. So this, right? This is the reaction. So 47.3, forecast of 47. Yeah, Felix, they could. Yeah, there's just back cams. There's just a lot, right? VIX is elevated today. War. Um, there's a lot, right? There's just a lot. Strike, war. Um, but I'm still willing to use this and see this as a stick versus a snake, and try to buy things that I like on pullbacks. Yeah, have you guys read the article about that place in North Carolina that creates the silicone or creates fine quartz for semiconductors? Like it's the according to the article, it's the only place. Have you guys read that yet? Yeah, it's like the super fine quartz. Like yeah, it's there's no roads in and out right now to it or something like that. Like the whole world economy is relying on this one little mine. So does everybody understand why my hard stop is at low of bottom on this one, right? So if we retest and roll over, you're probably going to get an extension down. So what this trade looked like was let's try to buy, let's sell some. All that does is lower this cost basis back down to here, right? Because we just scalped out that difference. Now as it breaks down and stops me out, I've got a very small red trade or a small green trade. And that's what I'm trying to do when I set up scalps. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. Like how how is uh how is it that one mine, like the article that I read was talking about how it came from Africa, like colliding with our continent, and that's what created this superfine quartz or something like that. And like it's the only place in the world that can do it. So yeah, it's a bit crazy. Yeah, single point of failure like that shouldn't be the case. Yes, I did stop out at this trade at low a day, but I'm still willing to try to bounce this. We just have to wait for another proper setup. So like what's going through my head right now is if we come down to the next point, right, the next level, that's that 568 level. Um, if we go down there with speed, right, like if we don't just slowly work down there, I'd be willing to take that shot as well. Or if we come back up here and press this level and pull back for like an inverted head and shoulders, I'd be willing to take that shot as well. Um, but if we just kind of slowly grind down, I'll probably just wait for that first 30 minutes to be over with, and let's see the data that's coming out. Oh, is DJT strong today? Hmm. Isn't the vice presidential election tonight? Does anybody keep up with that stuff? I think it's tonight. Increase the volume on my mic. Let's see. Hello. Does this sound better? Yeah, Vance and Waltz. So if if you think that that's going to have some type of impact on the markets, right? Like it may have a little bit more impact than normal because we've had a lack of presidential debates, but it normally doesn't have that big of an impact. Man, I keep trying to get filled on a trade, and the option spreads are just too wide. Iran will imminently launch a missile attack against Israel. That's just what Charlie said. L. Richardson, how long did it take to become a profitable trader? Well, as an investor, I was very profitable, and I've been doing that my whole life. Um, but as a day trader, it took me about, I think it was about a year and a half to 2 years. But again, that year and a half to 2 years for me, like I sold all my businesses, so I was sitting in front of a computer all day, every day. And so the time that it took me to do it would probably be more equivalent to maybe 5 or 6 years for normal people. Does that make sense? All right, we got 5 minutes till the data and Google gap filled. If anybody wants to try this trade, but if the market doesn't bounce, neither will Google most likely.
Hi, Dada.
I love you, sweet.
Tell me if Alibaba does good.
Yeah, you want to see it?
Yes. Oh.
I think you're in at like 70, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm up so much. Let's go.
Yep. So my daughter, she sold her Microsoft and flipped over to Baba. She doubled her money on Microsoft, and How many shares did you have of Baba? Do you remember?
I had I don't know, but I had a lot. I had a lot of shares. Like for me.
Yeah, I think it was like 25, right?
I think so, yeah.
25. So you are up right now.
Let's see.
You're up $1,000 right now.
Oh, let's go. I gotta sell it soon because China is going crazy.
Yeah, I think though that I think in a year you'll probably, well, I think within a year you'll have this up around 150, 160.
Okay. I love you.
Love you too, sweeties. Love you, buddy.
Can you buy me that whenever it goes down to like 95, like you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely can. Okay. I think we might be getting to a point where we can try to bounce again. So unfortunately, we got 3 minutes before the data comes out. So it's just the timing is kind of hard. Like I think we're at a potential level for a bounce here, but if the data comes out, it could just tank or it could just rip. So the data may push us in one direction and we may miss the dip. PLTR went green. Yeah, that I read an article yesterday about how I forgot the guy's name, but he had dumped like 700 million worth of stock last week, and the week before he dumped a lot as well. The fact that he's dumping into this and it's holding this well, you know, it's pretty impressive. Okay, I couldn't get filled on options of TTD, but I did get filled on shares of TTD. Um, Again, what I'm playing here is just this 78-minute TTM squeeze. If you're better at getting filled on shares than I am, I mean on options than I am, you know, you can play an option. But I tried getting filled on an option, so I could tell you guys what option I was getting filled on, but I couldn't get filled. I kept raising the bid, and it just kept going up, and I'm not getting filled, and so I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay, you know, 30 cents higher than what the bid originally was when I get filled, and then I take away my bid, and then the bid drops another 30 cents. Yeah, exactly. It's like chasing a carrot on the stick. Yep, 100%. So annoying. Okay, so Jolt's 8.04 versus 7.64. What does this mean, guys? So remember I said that the SPY, you know, or the data will push us one way or the other, right? That's what's happening right now. So unless you were willing to play through this little data, it's a little bit harder to get long and or short, whatever you think it is. And so, you know, there's 8.4 mil jobs. Now, what about the ISM manufacturing PMI, right? So that's at 47.2 when the target was 47.6. So here, let me see if I can find this. So like you see the trend here. So we were expecting 47.6, but in reality, we got 47.2. So this is kind of flattening it out. Now, what would the Fed like to see out of this number? Would they like it higher or lower? Like, does everybody understand what this number is? So again, if you don't know these things, you can always just click on. Let's see, if I click on it, it'll pull open, and you can just read about it, right? So right here it says a higher than expected reading should be taken as positive, bullish for the US dollar, while lower than expecting reading should be taken as negative for the US dollar. Yeah, do they want to cut? So it's good, in my opinion. I think the Fed wants to see this number start climbing now, right? Like they have began the cutting cycle because they think that they've made the economy slow down enough, and so they want to see it start picking back up. Does that make sense? Now, if you think they want it to keep going lower so they can cut faster, then maybe I'm wrong. But that's what mine is. That's my opinion. Yeah, so I think we're at a stage where good news is actually good news and bad news is actually bad news. That's my personal opinion. Okay, I'm gonna try the SPY again, guys, but I'm going further out. I'm actually gonna buy some SPY options out to this month's expiration. Um, and what I'm playing here is this the 78-minute chart. If we roll over again and come down to this 55 EMA area, 568, which is about a buck and a half lower, I'll add to it, and then I'm going to stick with the normal TPS rules. Does that make sense? So I'm going to buy the SPY, 571 calls for October 18th. And I'm just playing this 78-minute squeeze. Because we've got a great, in my opinion, a great risk reward setup here. So I'm going to buy here. I'm going to buy again at 568. It's going to lower my cost basis. And so literally I'll be risking like, less than $1, maybe 50 to 75 cents. And if this play works, you're going to get a minimum of $5 out of it. So I can be right 20% of the time and still be okay. I'm doing 571. That's the strike that I'm doing. This is what I just bought. For you guys asking me to repeat the trade, is that readable for you guys? So again, I'm trying to buy this dip on the SPY and see if this lower Bollinger Band and 55 EMA can hold it. And the edge is simply a 78-minute TTM squeeze. So we'll see if this bottom Bollinger Band of 55 can give us a bounce. Okay, so this is the add area for me. Okay, so the way that I will stop out of this trade is what? Does everybody understand the TPS rules? So if panic just continues, right, we just get this continued sell-off, right, we'll end up closing below this lower Bollinger Band, and I'll have to take the trade off. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anything else that I would want to do. I think I'm good on trying to bounce this. Um, but if anybody has any, trades or charts that they like that they were waiting for a pullback to get into, throw it in chat. Otherwise, the only thing that we can do is sit and watch, right? Like you don't want to chase this short down right here. Or I don't want to chase this short down here. So doesn't Nike report after the close today? Yeah, so Nike reports today. So if you're playing Nike, you're going to play, um, you know, through data. If you play it today, you're going to play through data that could be, big moves in either direction. And I read something that Nike's expected to report, negative quarter over quarter. So what that means is, there's some bad expectations brought into this, and the only reason that it's popped from here to here is because of activists and becoming involved. So what that means to me is you're more likely to see it go down than you are to see it go up because they're going to be reporting negative numbers. Does that make sense? So for me, Nike would be, hey, let's just wait and see. No. So on this, what I'm doing here, I went further out so that we can, not worry about theta. And again, it's the normal TPS rules. All right. So we've got some time before I would stop out of this. Just, I think we should give it some time to kind of marinate, right? Let's see if it can find some strength. How about the pullback in Burlington? Let's see. So here's how I would play Burlington. If I was not in this, I wouldn't get in it. And is Nate in this one? If Nate's in this one, what I would guess he would do is try to work himself out of the trade. Does everybody understand what that means? Like maybe he bought some here at 265 and then he wanted to buy some here off of this, lower Bollinger Band, this anchored VWAP at 255 or whatever, and then try to get out of the trade so that he can, get his cost basis down. That's what I would think he would do. Again, I don't know that, but that's what I would think. Oh, okay, so he did that yesterday. So here's your second hit on NVIDIA. So do you guys remember that training that I did last week? I was asking about percentages and bounces and stuff like that. So if you were talking about percentages, what's the percentage that NVIDIA holds this 117 to 118 area? Yeah, about 50%, right? You got about, maybe 40, 60, 45, 55, somewhere in there. But it's basically about 50%. And so if you can set up a risk reward that pays out better than a 1-to-1, then you're going to be profitable. So like if you're like, all right, let me buy this at 118, I'll stop out at 117.50. I'll risk 50 cents. But if it works, I'm going to try to take this back to 119.50 and 120. So that's a, $1.50 to $2 reward versus a 50-cent risk. And if you win 50% of the time, that's going to pay you well. Yeah, I do, Sharky. So which one are you looking at? Waste management? Um, for me, I wouldn't buy this right here, right now. Um, I would love it though if this came back to this 210 area. If this did something like this, right, and was still remaining in its squeeze, I would rather play that as we're coming up and creating that inverted. I'm sorry, inverted head and shoulders, flat top up here where you can get that third attempt at it to see if it'll break. Does that make sense? Yeah, I am. I'm still by the dip mode, 100%. Like one thing that I don't do is let one day or one morning determine where I am. So like today, we've got a lot of fear. We got a lot of uncertainty. We've got war. We've got strikes. We've got this. We've got that. That's 100% legit. And if that continues, then the charts will tell me that, and I'll lose on a couple dip buys, and I'll be like, all right, well, I need to tighten up a little bit, right? Let's realize that the market is a little more nervous, a little bit more fear in the market. So understanding that, let's be a little less aggressive. And then when you lose then again, right? If you lose again, it's like, okay, now I need to be really, really safe. And then if you lose then, it's like, all right, let's just take a break. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. Maybe my timing's off. You know what I mean? And so for me, like one of the things to understand is, guys, how long did I tell you guys about Baba, and did I ever waver on my approach? No, because nothing changed. And so the hardest thing to do in the market is be able to stick to whatever conviction it is. It doesn't matter if you're short, if you're long, it doesn't matter. Be able to stick to your conviction and allow things to work or not work, right? So if I'm willing to be a dip buyer, I have to take shots and allow them to work or not work, and understand that the way that I trade is I will take out small wins or small losses until I'm able to catch the bottom or the top if I'm shorting for that big win, right? So like we tried it right here just for a little quick, 0 DTE, maybe tomorrow trade, got out about scratch, a little green or a little red. Now I'm trying it again, but I'm being a little bit safer. I'm going further out, right, so that I can adjust it. If this doesn't work, then it's like, all right, well, let's sit back, and now we have to be a lot safer, because if I strike again, right, 3 strikes, I'm out. I gotta take a break. I don't want to have that third strike. Does that make sense? Yeah, Kev. Like again, I can't tell you where the market's going to go for certainty in the short term, but I'm pretty good at telling you where it's going to go over a longer term, right? Maybe today we just sell off all day. But I do think we rally into year end. Um, what do we got here? John, yeah, you can. Well, I think most most platforms like they'll give you the option on the good till cancel to not do it during market hours. I'm sorry, during pre-market or post-market. Only do it during market hours. So if you put in a good till cancel, it your broker should give you the option to not have it do it. Like I would think the default setting is to not perform the play during pre or post. So if that's happening with you, I would call your broker and ask them how to make it not trigger during pre or post. All right, let's see. Oh, John. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. If it's that opening, yeah, you're right about that. You're gonna have the wide spreads at open. Yep. And John, there's a way as well that you can put in orders. So here, let me see if I can find one. I don't know if you guys know this, but like when you put in buys or stops or anything of that nature, and you're saying, hey, like for example, can you guys see the spread on this one, the 110 call on TTD? Do you see how it's at 217 to 240? What you can do, like if you had a good till cancel order that said, hey, I want to market order, whatever, 10 of these, um, if price gets to 220 or 219 or whatever, then what'll happen is as soon as this appears on the tape, right? Like if this is the next bid, then it will fill you. So what you can actually do to try to mitigate some of that spread is you can actually change your settings to where it doesn't, it's not that it appears on the tape, it actually has to go through. So for example, it has to hit the tape instead of appear on the bid ask. Does that make sense? So like nothing has gone across the tape here. And so like if I had a good till cancel at 220, well, even though we've hit 220, until something hits on the tape, I will not have my order filled on the good till cancel. Does that make sense? You know, and it's important with stops especially because a lot of times you'll stop out of a trade and you shouldn't have stopped out of a trade because something appeared on the bid, but it never actually went through, and so that stops you out of your trade, even though nothing triggered there. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. So you can adjust those per your broker. Was the market data good data? So the sell off, in my opinion, it's more than just market data. I think it's understand we're in a volatile period until the election. Understand that there's a lot of global fears going on with war, with port strikes, with you know natural disasters, with like there's a lot going on, and so what do markets hate? They hate uncertainty, and so there's uncertainty, and so I think that's all right. Well, we pushed up. We had a good September, and so now, right, we're just doing a pullback. Like again, I don't think that this is that big of a deal. If I stop out on this trade, then I'll look for another trade that I can get into that will make me more money as we pull back. Because the more we pull back, the more money I'm going to make in the long run. So again, I don't think it's one specific thing that's causing this. Yes, I do personally think October is going to be down. I said that at the beginning of the um, session. Is I personally think October is going to be a down month. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be buying dips. Because whenever we bottom, whenever that is, I'm going to catch it. And then I'm going to run this thing back up into new highs towards the end of the year. Right? That's the goal. So if we bounce at 563.95, if we bounce at 550, wherever that bounce comes from, I'm gonna take part in it. So where's money flowing today? Do you guys remember what I said was cheap right now about a week ago? Energy's starting to become cheap. But I don't think that that's necessarily why we're flowing into this. I think this has more to do with war, right? RTX, Lockheed Martin. So I think this is more geopolitical than anything. Yeah, don't forget China. Money's flowing still into China. Military, yep, yep. Defensive names, right? Fear. Okay, guys, we're about an hour in. I'm going to jump off, go take a little break. I'll be back before lunch. And if you guys have any other charts or questions you want me to take a look at, feel free. But again, understand where I am. I'm still in the spot before the election. It's going to be more volatile. I'm still willing to buy dips and take losses on when they break. I will be less likely to buy dips in the last 2 weeks of August as we're waiting for the election. Any questions on my overall thesis for where I think we are in October in the markets? Yeah, Felix, I personally think so. Think of it this way, guys. Like for retail traders, I have a lot of money, right? For normal traders that like trade funds and stuff, I don't, right? This isn't that big of a deal. Like I'm a very small fish. But me being a very small fish, looking at the elections and being scared and thinking, man, what's going to happen if Kamala wins and Trump says that it was rigged and a civil war starts? What happens if Trump wins and the left starts burning down everything in the streets? Right? Like, as I don't what's the word, hyperbolic, as that is hyperbolic, is that the word I'm looking for? Does that sounds like, to me those are legit possibilities, and so it makes me scared, right? And so before the election I will have a lot of cash. I'll take off a lot and I'll be prepared to reinvest that after the election. Hyperbole, there you go, that's the word I'm looking for. Maybe that's a lot, sounds like hyperbole. Okay. And so, like, just think, me, little old me, if I'm doing that, imagine what all these other people are doing with all their large amounts of funds, right? They're going to be doing something similar where they're, one, either hedging it somehow, or two, strictly taking off portions of their positions, right? They'll hedge through sizing. And so that's what I think is going to cause a red October. I don't think war or geopolitical concerns would cause a red October by themselves. I think. Oh, here, let me actually show you this too. Give me one sec. Let me pull this up. Here, let me show you guys this. Okay, let's see. Can you guys read this? Is this visible? So what this is showing us is when we've had the first 3 quarters, right, being ranked, right, like these are your rankings of the first 3 quarters, and you can see right now we're actually number 9, so we're in the top 10. Everybody see this right here? So if you had listened to me at the beginning of the year, you'd have been able to partake in one of the top 10 bull runs ever in the first 3 quarters. Okay, understood. What has happened in October? We've only had 2 that were positive. Does everybody see that? So using this math, right, we have a much lower chance of finishing green than red. However, if you look at November and December, right, it's very different. You've got 1 red here in November and 2 red here in December. And so I personally think that this year, these 2 months are going to do well. The election will be over with, which is November 5th, right? Uncertainty, quote unquote, hopefully, right? Hopefully we can put a president up there that will, what's the word I'm looking for here? Hopefully we'll be able to put a president in power. Oh wait, you guys can't see December and 4th quarter. Here, let me just get this over. So this is what the data looks like for the rest of the time. Hopefully we can put a president in power and everybody agrees. Let's just put it that way. And we don't start some craziness. And if that's the case, then, I'm looking for a year-end rally. Yeah, October seasonally is, well, October is also known as the bear market killer. So yes, you do have seasonally bad Octobers, but you also have opportunities in October. So, with all that being said, what we have to do is we just have to stay safe. And so as long as we're staying safe, we're good. Right? Don't go out and try to buy this dip that's happening on the first day of October with most of your account. You know what I mean? Like, let's take some shots. We may lose a couple here, but the goal is once we get that one, it'll pay for a couple losses. And then if it rolls over again, then we'll catch the next one. And then maybe that's the low. But if it's not, same idea. Stay safe. And if it does it again, the lower it goes, the more value that we're getting, the bigger the win will be towards the end of the year. And again, what did I say this morning? Safe. This month and last month, the main goal is safety. It's always the main goal, but especially when volatility is increased and uncertainty. Does that make sense? Yeah, yep. Black Friday, Black Monday. You know what else that I saw they're selling at Costco is the Mexican Coke. Is that true? Does anybody of you guys shop at Costco? Are they selling the Mexican Coke? When they're in stock, they're always out of stock. Wow. So the Mexican Coke, anybody know the difference between our Coke and the Mexican Coke? Like they use pure cane sugar instead of the, corn syrup. Yeah, right? It's good. It's like way better. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it's better for you. Yeah, the white powder. They actually put White powder in there, Coke? No, but anyway, sorry, I got distracted. So again, understand where we are in the markets. Understand we tried a quick day trade on a SPY. Now I want to get in a position where I can give it a little bit more time. Maybe we flounder today, and maybe we can catch these lows and try to scalp out some some of these options and create another free trade that we can maybe get a rally for the first couple weeks of October. But again, if they pull forward that negative move like they did in September, if they do that exact same thing in October and we come down to this 550 area, I personally will be buying that with much wider stops. Like at that point, if you get a pullback of 5 to 7%, that's all I need, and I will be buying that for a year-end rally. Would I buy gold or silver? That's a great question. Yeah, you could. So, man, this is a loaded question because when I have cash sitting, as of now, I'm getting 3, 4, 5% just cash sitting, which is abnormal from the previous 10 years, right? So am I in a rush to buy stuff like gold if I just have cash sitting? No, I'm not. But with that being said, I do have gold bars that I own physical gold. I do have silver bars, right, that you have to own. Like literally, if you're buying silver and gold, your silver bars are going to be like 5 times as big as your gold bars, but they're going to be worth even less. So they're harder to store, and it's just, to me, instead of looking at it as I'm afraid of this possible snake over here, I simply look at it as this is creating an opportunity for me to just be patient, sit on my hands, and have the cash ready to go when the opportunity arises. And so if you want to think about it in very long terms, just think about Buffett, right? Like Buffett can sit on his hands for years, like 2, 3, 4 years. He's just like, oh yeah, I got all this cash, I'm just gonna sit on it. He doesn't do anything with it. He just sits on it, right? He'll buy, monthly stuff, and you'll get, that 3 to 4 to 5% or whatever with the bills and stuff, and maybe he buys bonds or whatever. But he's just waiting, and that's how I view it as well. So I'm not in a rush to do anything. And the other thing is like my long-term positions, unless they get extreme levels, I'm not even going to hedge them. I like, for example, Baba right here, right now, I did sell some right yesterday, and I sold some the day before that, and I'm willing now to sell to open calls against these shares. So like that's a hedge that I'm quote unquote taking on that, and so I will sell to open calls like on my longer term positions as quote unquote hedges. But I'm not sitting up here thinking, all right, we got to get short the SPY, we got to get on puts, we got to get on shorts to hedge. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense of kind of where I am. I don't think it's worth 1 to 2 to 3% to try and do that, because I'm going to be buying a dip, and the 1 to 2 to 3% just isn't worth it to me. I would rather buy a dip at 5% and then it rally, from that point another 10%, then wait for a 7% pull and miss the rally. And so if I get that 5% pull and I get long and it goes down 7%, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like that 1 to 2 or 3%, it's not that big of a deal to me because of the overall picture. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. You can get there's all kinds of places in a market like this. So, Elaine, your broker should be giving you a pretty good amount. Like literally, your broker should be giving you 2 to 3 to 4 to 5%. Does anybody have a Robinhood account? Yeah, that exactly, Tyrade. You guys have Robinhood? What are you getting on your cash just sitting there? It was at one point over 5%. You're still getting 5? Oh, 4.5? So like, you see what I'm saying? Like, these people are literally getting 4.5% on their cash. So like, literally, if you're just sitting on cash, you're still getting a decent yield. You're gonna get a little 5%. Yeah. So that's like, just sitting in cash should, your broker should be paying you a decent amount, even if it's not a 5%. It should be around at least 3. What do I think about AAP? I think AAP is in the beginning of a turnaround story, and I am actually long-term AAP. But again, this is the very beginnings of a turnaround story. They just got a new CEO. They have to repair relationships. And so it's going to take some time, like years of time. You know, in a lot of places you can actually buy, you know, monthly treasuries and stuff like that as well. So if you wanted to, you know, rotate, have a rotating, uh, you know, let's say you've got, I'm just gonna make this number up. Let's say you got $100,000 or $1,000,000 or whatever, and so it's like, all right, if I got $1,000,000, let me rotate, you know, every quarter. Let's just do a third, and a third every month. So at any time frame, you at least have a third of that left to do whatever you want with. Does that make sense? Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for me before I jump off? Thoughts on the stock after the split on SMCI? My thoughts on SMCI is the same as before the split. They have a lot of people questioning their accounting, right? And if they're legit on if really what's happening when an SMCI is really happening. Does that make sense? So we need a reason to buy SMCI. If you think that all that is noise, then yeah, I think you should buy it. But it's for me, the way that I would play SMCI would only be as like day trades that set up into swing trades. Like, I'm not over here looking at SMCI in a hurry to get long SMCI. Now, if I dug into the company and I knew people at the company and I could ask questions and stuff like that, maybe I would. But you're gonna need multiple quarters of proof that their accounting is correct. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. The election year chart. Okay, so which one are you talking about here? Let me. I got a few of them. Let me see if I can find. Are you talking about like this one? Um, so like on let's see, bring the front. On this one, you can see this blue line is the presidential election year. Right? And so this for me is what I think is going to happen this October dip right here, that little curl. And then after the election, you're going to get the rally. Yeah, we have another one that's just the normal monthly seasonality. And then this one tells you literally what happens every single day of the year, if you want that one. It's from Carson Research. But if you go back and look at the PowerPoints, I've got a bunch of different, seasonality type things that allow you to kind of, let me see if I can pull up another one, figure what normally happens on a election year. So let's see, 8, 12, 21. Oh, whoops, that's not there. Wasn't that one? One sec, I'll pull open the go. Quit. Yes. Where are we on the SPY? I haven't stopped out yet on the SPY. So technically we're supposed to, right? So technically, according to the TPS rules, we're supposed to. Man. So you see how we closed at this at the lower outside this lower Bollinger Band. Does that make sense? If you were to switch to the 2-hour, right, or the 130, then technically you could still stay in the trade. But if you're playing the 78, we're supposed to stop out. I don't want to. So here's what I'm going to do, guys, on the SPY. I'm going to stay in this, but I'm literally going to put a hard stop at this low. So like the way that you would do this, if something triggers, like the SPY triggers, a trade triggers below 566, whatever, 50, then stop out of your trade. That's how I'm going to set it up. So if the low of day is broken here of 566.61, right? So put in whatever 566. If a trade goes across the tape below low of day, I will stop out of this SPY trade again. And what that means is I got to take a little break, right? Like it's like, all right, I'm not allowed to play another bounce, right? Two strikes. So that third strike will be, hey, we got to stay super safe because we've already, even though we didn't lose money on the first one, we didn't win, right? And so you can call it a foul ball or whatever, but it still counts as a strike, right? Foul balls are still strikes. So this would be a loss that we would take, and we'd have to stop out. And so I just want to be safe on that third one, right? Does that make sense? How do you calculate the? So what I do, right, especially with something like the SPY, it's going to have 2-3 cent spreads tops. What I will do is you'll come in here and you'll say, hey, stop me out of whatever, how many of you have, and you'd put a conditional order, and what it looks like is like this. So do you see how it says if the following contingent is met? Right? And so you see how it says last price, ask price, bid price? You could like come in here and say, hey, if this is met within the stock, place the following order. And then that's when you come in and put your SPY order in and say, I want you to sell these. And for me, I would sell at market because I don't like the 3-4 cents. Like it's not a big deal. Now, if this was TTD and you've got 50-cent spreads on them, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, then you wouldn't want to do it at market. You would want to sell to close with a limit price, and you'd put above the ask or the bid or whatever whatever you're doing, selling or buying. But this is what a contingent order looks like, and it's like, hey, if this triggers, if this condition is met, then sell this position. Does that make sense? And so maybe today's just a day where we sell off, and we don't need to shoot all of our shots until later in the week. Yeah, and if you use toss, they can actually tell you what they think the price will be on the option. And you can always use the delta. And the other thing that you can do is you can literally look at the price. So like if we were to pull up the chart, right? If we look at this chart, well, what's the low of day been? Well, the low of day on this has been 617. So if price comes back down and breaks this low, where do you think price is going to be according to this option? Does that make sense? So like, again, the low of day today, 617. So if you just wanted to put a price on the option, it's like, all right, 614, right? That means we're cracking the low of day most likely. If you wanted to be safe, you could put it in at 605 or you know what I mean, make it look 10 cents lower than this. But again, you'd want it to go across the tape, not just what appears on the bid and the ask. So there's multiple ways you can do it. As long as you're safe, there's not a wrong way. Look at the difference in the in flow. You don't see this a whole lot. So you see the SPY. You've only got 1.6 mil in calls, and you've got twice that in puts. So a lot of hedging or short selling or whatever you want to call it. A lot of fear today. You'd bet it's the strikes. Yeah, could be. I think it's a combination of everything. It's uncertainty, right? It's the uncertainty of the war. It's the uncertainty of the strikes. Anything that is. It's the uncertainty of October being a bad month. It's the uncertainty of who's going to be the president. Didn't we put ground troops in the Middle East? I thought I read an article about us putting ground troops in the Middle East. Did we do that? NRG? Yeah. I mean this is a beauty chart. And it's a utility, right? So it's not going to be affected as much. Oh, yes, so yes, several thousand. So they've already been there. So, I didn't know that, Daniel or Danielle. So they were already there. Like, I understand we have bases all around the world and we had people there, but they actually moved more troops. Yeah, okay, so I understand that. I understand that we've had troops and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Quit. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, they're sending more. Yeah, that's what I read. I read something like that, which is scary. And again, the way that my conspiratorial mind works, it's like, you know, what are they going to do before the election? Both sides, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying one side's better than the other. I'm not saying anything. Like, what's the craziness that's going to happen before the election to try to get people to vote for who they want them to vote for? You know what I mean? So anyway, just a lot of uncertainty. 2 carrier fleets. Wow. 43,000. Okay, so they sent 2 to 3 to help defend the 40. Yeah, so maybe the geopolitical concern was the number one concern from a survey for managers that was done. I think it was done 2 weeks ago, and it was actually higher than the election, which surprised me. So, okay, guys, it's 11 o'clock. I'll be back again. I have a hard stop in on the second spy attempt, and if we stop out, then I'm gonna have to be a little bit more cautious on trying to bounce it again. And I will talk to you guys soon. Sorry, I'm not able to get to the admin dashboard. It's kicking me out. Okay, there we go. I got it. Talk to you guys later. So one thing to watch, guys, is how do I quantify this? If we break low of day, there's a high possibility that we do get a failed breakdown. So as I'm sitting here, I do have the hard stop in, but I'm not opposed to just getting right back in it. If the fear is, you know, gripping everybody and there's not going to be a bounce today, then I won't fight it. But if we do a failed breakdown and reclaim, I am still willing to jump back in it relatively quickly. But if it ends up being a trend down day, you know what I mean, there's nothing we can do with it. There it is. So this is a good example of a W that tried breaking up, but instead creates your descending triangle look. Oh, Sketch, I think I got to sign up for it. Let me do that right now, actually. Earnings season's coming up, and I don't sign into it a lot. Yeah, I had a hard stop in on that wick, and so that stopped me out. Now, there's a high probability that this is a failed breakdown, and what I mean by that is, I'm trying to quantify it for you. Like, the odds of the breakdown, the failed breakdown occurring here is higher than it was here, here, and here, right? So, if let's just say if we come into like 565 area, like this line area, and then have a extremely big rally back to 568, I think buying it again on that shoulder would be worth a shot. Does that make sense? And you're going to know really quickly whether it's a failed breakout or if it's just a trend down. Yes, like we don't need to break that. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to break that 568. But if we get a push back up into these people's zone, then your value area low would be your risk. Does that make sense? Yeah, you could pick. You could pick what you wanted to do, but that's for me. It would literally be the risk would be 567. Like we got to stay above that. Otherwise, it's just a retest and it's going to roll over double bottom and create that descending triangle. Yes. Yeah, so according to Powell, what he said yesterday is he thinks that there'll probably be 2 more cuts and probably 25 basis points by the end of the year. Yeah, that's what he said yesterday. Now, if the economy shows more weakness, then of course it will be higher. But that's his, as of now, that's his path.
So I'm having trouble understanding this. Fed Cook predicts AI fueled productivity gains. Hopefully, they act as a counterweight to inflation. Productivity improvements from artificial intelligence come with long and variable lags. So he's hoping that this helps fight, and like it could only help fight inflation in certain areas, right? I don't know. Okay, so you're more productive. I get it. That means more supply of whatever it is to counteract the demand. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, does anybody have questions for me? I'm going to take like a 30-minute break, and I'll be back. Yes. Oh. So so mute yourself. I don't hear it. I don't hear it when you mute it. Now unmute. Oh, so it's the unmute. But isn't that just the feedback? Wait, I don't know. Let's see. Huh. Yeah, yeah, send it to me. I think I turned off like when people join and leave, right? Notifications. Unmute. Wouldn't you want that unmute button to be off as well? Because that's what I think that's what's doing it here. Is yeah, I think I've got the join or leave off. Let's see. Message definitely. Let's see. Yeah, I think I've got so notifications.
So okay, so notification. I've got all mine selected off, Ryan. Like every single one of them is selected off, and I'm still hearing that. So does that mean it's coming from some, like, what does that mean? Like literally every single one of them's off.
That's the only thing I could think of is if it was your feedback, but
Like this is my settings. Like is there one that it's not selected? I'm supposed to. Am I in the wrong spot?
oh, yeah. Let's see. But that's on a completely different computer. Yeah. I'll, no, I didn't. Do it again. Ah, I mean, seriously. It's always the Canadian dude. Yeah, no, it's gone.
Um. Yeah, Ryan, I'm reading your DM. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Yep.
You know, the again, the idea of the group is we're family. There's no drama, right? That's why we don't talk about politics. Some people in here love Biden. Some people in here love Trump. But there's no, you know, we're all here to make money. That's it. And as long as somebody's like that, then we're good. I hate both sides too, but I'm not hating both sides equally as I used to. But so, and Efren, if you're listening, like if you think Danger Girl or Lisa or anybody else, like anybody else that you wanted to bring in, then I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Like it's just the understanding of what we are. Like the number one goal is we've got really good people here. Like I think I've done a decent job on inviting just good people, you know, and people that genuinely care about others. They're not just selfish and try to make everything about themselves, I guess is the best way to put it. So, you know, that's what we want to keep. Right? Besides Ryan, of course. Yeah. So, anyway. Poor Ryan. you're, you're getting jumped by everybody. I keyed. Rovi, did you know that Efren is Canadian as well? I don't know if you knew that, but he is, you know, Canadian. Well, Roby's actually female, but you can assume their gender all you want, but just it's a little mean. um, yeah, GNRC, man. Does anybody else feel like I always feel dirty when stuff like this happens? It's like, okay, so thank you, Helen, or whatever your name is, for making my stop go up 13% while you destroyed the lives of millions of other people. Appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. uh, yeah. Oh, Canada. I think I learned Canada's theme anthem from South Park. I think that's where I learned it from. Oh, Ryan, did you see the Simpsons finale? Yeah, they just aired the Simpsons finale. You didn't see it? Yeah, yeah. They they were making fun of fun. It's such a Simpsons thing to do, to have a finale. That's not a finale, but you're making fun of all the other finales. Bart was like turning 11. No, no, no. They came in. It started in 1989. So I remember this simply because the first year they started, I told my mom. At the time, Cosby Show. I think it was number one. Like my mom she was like all about the Cosby Show, and I was like, "Oh, the Simpsons are going to overtake the Cosby Show." And she said, "The Cosby Show's been running for like 8 years. There's no way this cartoon makes it past 8 years." 30 years later, Yeah, Cosby Show was huge. It was like everybody gathered together and let's watch the Cosby Show. So here, just to kind of go over what the Spy is doing now, right? Like we got to flush out. What's happening now is going to determine the trend down is going to continue, or if we're going to be able to have a break and a reclaim here. So if you didn't have a hard stop in, and this is why I don't use hard stops a lot. Like you could literally stop out here and it would be at the same price or possibly better than your original stop out, right? Now, that's just, you normally get that retest. However, you've got between 567 and 568, that's your chunk. Like there's a lot of people, quote unquote, for the time period that we're playing, a lot of people in between that range. And so if you can push this all the way to 568, what that means is everybody within that range just had the opportunity to get out. And so anybody that was stuck, trapped, underwater, whatever it is, has had the opportunity to hit sell and would have hit sell if they're going to hit sell. If they're not going to hit sell, then they're just going to keep it. And that gives us the opportunity for the buying the next pullback. Does that make sense? The psychology, the logic of it? And so one of the things that I've noticed since the start of September, since volatility has increased, is I've been a little early on a lot of stuff because I'm not taking into account enough of the increased volatility. And so that may be the case again today. So this is what I'm talking about, right there. Oh, no, I didn't. When I was playing with it. Thank you. So do you see that green box? Anybody that has bought within that base that did not have a hard stop in at a break of low, if it comes back to the top of that box, anybody within that VP range has had the opportunity to get out and break even. So if they're going to stop out and or get out break even, they will do so. So all the supply will be gone. And so when you get a pullback, you just need a little bit of demand to allow for a push back over that 568 level. So if we were to push here, let me draw another chart. So using that so think of it like this. If we push up to that 568 level, right? And it gives everybody that's been trading within that last hour between 10 and 11 o'clock the opportunity to get out. And then we pull back. Melinda, who are the people that were playing? And again, I don't know if you're going to understand the question, but using that picture up there, if we hit that 568 and we pull back to 567, who are the people that are going to be controlling the price? So the people that are going to be controlling the price is no longer, here, I'll draw it out. So the people that are controlling the price right now, right, that are going to be selling into it, are the people that happen between 10 and 11. So box number 1, I'm drawing this out. If we get a pullback, then box number 2 is controlling the price. So here, let me put that in there. Now, do you understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying box number 1 or box number 2? So box number 1 being between 10 and 11. Box number 2 being the quick pullback that we get between 11:30 and 11:35. Well, who's harder to get through? An hour worth of people between 10 and 11, or a 10-minute pullback from 11:30 to 11:40? And so the odds of us being able to bounce back after this pullback, if it comes, is much, it's easier. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And so now that we've given everybody, right now, everybody that has bought between 10 and 11 has literally had the opportunity to sell and get out. Right? So this supply is gone. Does that make sense? Any questions on this, guys? So the supply... Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. Well, yes, but the important thing to understand about why we can take another shot here and why the path of least resistance would be up at that point is because you're no longer having to churn through that hour of sideways action. You've already done that. Like it's done. And so this next pullback, however long it takes, 5 minute, 10 minute, if it does it for an hour, then there's going to be no difference, right? But if you get a quick pullback to 567, 567.50, whatever it is, and it's a 5 minute candle or a 10 minute candle or a 15 minute candle, which one's easier to get through? Same volume's about the same. Well, it's going to be the 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, right? And so instead of playing, remember, the closest price action determines the price movement the most. And this is why, is because anybody that had supply that was going to get rid of their supply has done so. They either stopped out at the low of day, they stopped out at break even. They're done. Anybody that were to buy between here, let's say we get a pullback to 567, maybe somebody buys it at 567.50, and like, oh, this is going to be the spot, and then it pushes to 567, and they're like, ah. Well, once they get back to 567.50, they can stop out. That's great. But again, it took only a couple minutes to do this. And so it'll be easier to get through. That's why you want to be a buyer of the next pullback. And again, did I quantify enough why I thought so? Like, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to trading the smaller account and what makes it harder. I didn't stop out of my bigger account. I literally got 50 calls still. And I'm actually green. So like when I break it out, I bought it in 10, 10, 10, 10. So I'm literally down. No, so like I'm going back and forth between being green and being down. So like I'm down a little bit, then I'm up a little bit. So the idea, like, it's so hard to quantify exactly, like, does everybody understand why this breakdown was, you had a high odds of a failed breakdown here? Did I explain that enough? Did I quantify that enough for you to understand why? You knew what I was going to say. I love it, D. Right? So let me answer Melinda's questions, and then you jump on and answer, Efren. So Melinda, so how could we have waited for that and not gotten out, or could we? This is the line that you have to walk, right? And this is the line that I'm trying to walk with the small account that I haven't done in I don't know how long. So do you think 50 contracts phases me at all? If I'm buying 50 long contracts, do you think I see this and I'm like, oh man, crap, I'm down, I don't know, 15 grand, 10 grand, 5 grand. That doesn't phase me in the least bit. You know what I think? Like, this can get you in big trouble. And as a new trader, you cannot do it. But as a professional trader, you can. And this is what's so hard. I don't care what happens today. I literally could care less. We could go down 10 points. I know I could work myself out of that trade. Literally. I don't care if we dropped down to 560. I could come in here and I could work myself out of that loss. And ultimately what that means is the money that I'm losing, I know I can get back quickly. Now, would I have to buy the 571s? No, I'd probably drop it to 561s at that point. But then I would have the loss be eaten by the profits that I'm going to get from the 561 buy. But as a newer trader and somebody with a smaller account, you have to pick those levels. And you have to just obey them. And so in this example, what I just said about, hey, maybe because I'm not putting in the correct volatility for the small account. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, we're moving more than we were before September. And so you remember how I would say when I was first started trading, I'd always want to jump in a little bit early, and then I would say I need to just tell myself, wait one more time. I think I'm in that spot now. And what I'm having to do is I have that wait one more time. Like I can add one more time, like literally 10 times with a larger account. Like I can add here, I can add here, I can add tomorrow, I can add the next, and it's fine. But I can't do that with a small account because it is a small account, and if I'm going to trade it like that's the only money that I have, then I would have to really protect myself. Does that make sense? And so you have to be able to come in here and say, look, I've sucked at bouncing with a small account. Like I've just sucked at it. I've been too early. Okay, how do I change that? Well, the way to change it is wait one more time. For me, that's what I'm thinking is next time I want to bounce something, wait one more time, right? And then if I start missing out on trades because of wait one more time, well, what's the difference? Then I have to go in and I have to break down why is it bouncing here sometimes versus here. You know what I mean? And this is literally how you create edges and figure out how the language of charting is, because you're too early, you're too late, you're making mistakes, you're doing all these things. But the way that I trade, and I never realized how much I rely on this until I started doing the smaller account, is I'm never full size. I really don't give a dang what's happening. I know that at any moment I can come in and scalp out a position and get back to break even and cut it and reset a new trade. Like literally. Again, I think I can jump on a bear's back and go for a ride. Maybe I'm crazy and maybe one day that's going to blow me up, but that's literally how I think. So, you know, how do we do that? How do we see this and be allowed? Well, one is sizing. Instead of buying 5 at a time, maybe I should buy 3. And then instead of saying the risk that I had on 5, I can give it a little bit more risk now if something like this sets up. Does that make sense? It could also be done through just adjusting, hey, wait one more time. So there's a bunch of different ways to say how do we do this? How do we capture it? And I have to figure out the best way to do that. Yeah, I hate obedience, right? Yeah, that's you know, it's so hard. Give me one sec. So this is a profit taking point. If anybody was in this, can anybody tell me why? Because we're hitting the base of these people here, right? So in the big account that I'm much less strict on, I can do this kind of stuff, and this is just how I've traded for the past, I don't know how long. And I am now learning why you guys can't follow me. Does that make sense? Like, I'm literally learning now why people haven't been able to follow me. It's because I'll say, hey, I'm going to buy 50. And they're like, well, I'll buy 5 of them. Well, 5 is actually a lot on a $27,000 account, $30,000 account. So they can't continue to say, hey, oh, okay, I'm going to add. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a point where you have to stop out. So I personally think that 569.50 will reject. So the pullback that we wanted 10 minutes ago didn't happen. It's just a straight failed breakdown. And like as soon as you broke, like the pullback would have been the reject at 568 to be able to get through. So now it's actually a different chart. And so the idea now is, because we have people above 568, I wouldn't want to bring this all the way back down to the value area low of 567. Does that make sense, the difference? Because we're up here and we're above the 568 and we're above 50 above it, I don't want this to come all the way back down to here. So if I was going to play this, the max risk that I would put on it would be buy a 568 retest, and my stop would be around 567.50ish, and I'll show you why. Yeah, exactly. So that retest of 568, right? If you buy at 568, I personally want 567.50 to hold. I don't want to roll this all the way down to 567. Now, using the information that we literally just talked about, I could say, well, you know, we have been a little bit more volatile. I have been a little bit early. So maybe on this one, instead of buying 5 at 568, I buy 2 at 568, I buy 3 at 567.50 or 567.25, and then I can use 567. Then that gives me a little bit more room and allows for the volatility. And either one of them is fine. Like that's not wrong. But normally, I would want that 567.50 to hold. Does that make sense? 180% on SE options. I love it. Awesome job, Ryan. Okay, so Efren, do you want to answer the question about why I said that there was a high probability of a failed breakdown here? Like that. So see if I quantified that enough. As you're answering, you're realizing you didn't answer my question? Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay. So, does anybody got anything else they want to try to say before I answer it? Okay. I'm trying to think of a what's the word? The way Jesus taught, parables. Is that what it is? Parable. I'm trying to think of like a parable here, or a trying to think of a story here that we could say. All right, if okay, I've started working out again because I've never been fat in my life, right? And I just wanted to be fat. I wanted to check it out and try it out. And fat for me, again, I'm 5'10" and I'm 180 pounds. Like that's me being fat. So I'm not like super obese or overweight or anything like that, but it's hefty for me. So I started working out again, and the reason I'm working out is actually just to be healthy so that I can live longer with my children, right? And I'm not trying to like put on muscle and be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I do want to, put on muscle and retain a little bit just so that I don't fall over when I'm 80. Now, in order to do that, what I've had to do is I'll get up and I'll start on a treadmill, and not quite yet, but it's coming, Ryan. It's coming. And so every morning I get up and I run on the treadmill. Does anybody else in here run on a treadmill? So I do it every day except on the weekends. I take the weekends off. Do you have a set time that you run on the weekend? I mean, run on the treadmill? What is it? Okay, so about 30 minutes of running on the treadmill. So if let's just say you have a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, one of your kids comes down there and they say to you, "Hey mom, it's 7:45. Why are you still running on the treadmill?" "Oh, well, today, I wanted to put in a little bit more work." Every minute that you run on that treadmill increases the probability of you stopping, right? So there's only a certain amount of distance that I can go and a certain amount of time that I'm running. So like the way that I run on a treadmill is I literally do sprinting for like a minute to 2 minutes, and then I'll rest. And then I'll do sprinting for a minute. So there's only a certain amount of time where like I can sprint and then I have to stop, and then I'm just dead. Like I can't even run anymore. And so today on the SPY, we literally went from basically 574 down to 566, right? And so while we're sitting basically at 565, what is the amount of room and how long have we been running on this treadmill? Well, the ATR is what, 550? Okay. So we're down $8, right? So like we're already down $7-8. If they break it here, do you think we're going to go down 10? It can. I promise you it can happen. Right? We can go from 560 to 550. It happens. Happened twice, right? Last month, in the beginning of the month. But the odds are not with you in that. Okay. So knowing that we've reached our ATR, how many breakdowns have we had? And you remember how I do things in the amount of threes? So it's like, right? So you've got your consolidation period. Maybe it'd be better to do with boxes. You got your consolidation period, breakdown. Consolidation period. Breakdown. And again, here. So in my mind, it's like, this is going to be one of those crazy days, right? That come around every once in a while, but are much rarer than just playing probabilities here, that are much rarer than a day like yesterday or the day before, the day before, the day before, the day before. You know what I mean? Like literally, if you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We haven't had one of those days in 15 days. I personally don't think we're going to have one of those days in the next 2 weeks. Maybe we do. Maybe the fear and everything grips you, maybe it does. So that's why I said, hey, I think you've got a really high probability of a failed breakout here. Okay, did I do a good job quantifying it? Does that make sense? Yeah, 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 and right, it's like, well, what about this box? And then you're like, well, what about this box, right? If you wanted to draw every single breakdown, right? And in reality, what is happening within these boxes, the reason I include that lower breakdown with that smaller box beforehand is because it was an immediate reclaim and attempt at an inverted head and shoulders, right? That's literally what they were trying to do. So all in all, this was the attempt to bounce it. They tried it here, they tried it here, they tried it here, and it never worked. Anyway, I hope you know you can't teach this stuff to people. I haven't figured out a way to teach this stuff to people without like literally having live sessions like this and being able to go over it and create those whys. And yeah, every single one of them has if then statements, 100%. And so again, if I wouldn't have tried this one right here, I might have said, all right, because I'm willing to get up to 10. I might have said, you know what, guys? I know you're not supposed to, but let's switch from playing the 78 to the 130. I still think we have a shot, or the 2 hour, and let's buy again, right? And this is the difference between profitability and loss. Like these small little nuances. We take a $500,000 loss, or we take a $500,000 win, and it's because of wait one more time. Literally a dollar price movement. Change that. So anyway. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. And that's the art. That's the hard part of where you guys are right now, and where I have to remember and go back to doing, because the what it always comes down to is, and I don't mean this to sound like a conceited SOB, but you guys know I am a conceited SOB. What it comes down to is, if you can look at a chart and say to yourself, hey, the probability of this is higher and I think I can make money doing it, then you should always do it. The problem with newer traders is they see things that aren't there. They'll see things that are obviously a short, and they'll say, well, what if it comes back? And then it just rallies it against them, and they end up losing twice as much. And so the difference between a professional trader and a newer trader, or one that's trying to, maybe they're just break even, is the ability to identify those. We should give up on this. Like, we should just cut it. It's done. Versus, hey, actually, yeah, we said this was this, okay, we can change our plan. And the reason we can change our plan is because I can trust myself that I'm not doing this because of a P&L. I'm doing this because the chart's telling me. Does that make sense? And so you've got to develop that's the muscle that you've got to get developed, to say, I can understand the language of charting. I know what's more likely to happen. I know the percentages here are in my favor. So yes, this is what I was originally planning. It's okay to do this because I'm still protecting myself, but the odds are actually swapping to my favor now. So I don't want to quite give up on this. Versus, wow, I'm down 50%. Well, shoot, might as well hold it. Maybe I should add here, right? No, that. What is the chart telling you? And speaking of that, that's the reason I'm never full size. Exactly what Ryan just said. I rarely go full size on stuff because when when I first started really sizing up to try to make a lot of money, I was always oversized. And the chart's telling me one thing, but I can't control my emotions because of this of the size that I have on. And it's like, my gosh, I literally lack the ability to not press the button because I'm down so much. Like I have to. Like, I'm at max pain. I gotta cut it. And the thing that literally changed trading for me was sizing. That's it. It's like, man, if I'm never at max pain, I can control my emotions with ease. So do you guys see that 569.50? I said I think this is where we reject. That happened, right? So now we've hit that 568 level. So at this point is where I would normally say, shoot, maybe we can buy some here and 567.50, 50% risk, bring it back to 569. That would be another profit. Yeah, let's do it. So, okay, let's take off the table or let's put on the table the idea that we do have more volatility. Okay, so what I'm going to do here then is, instead of saying, hey, 567.50 is going to be my stop, is there something on a bigger time frame that could be setting up? And what I see is, well, shoot, you could technically come all the way back to 567.50 and you have your inverted head and shoulders. And then that's when I'm like, do I want to play that? So, would you play that today? For me, I wouldn't. I would play that today. It's not something that I'd be willing to do. And so that's going to determine, right, what my sizing is. Do I want to buy 3 here, 3 there, three at the next one, or do I want to say, all right, the only thing that I'm willing to do is say 567.50 has to hold as long as we stay above, right, the chunk of this level, these people here, and the only people we have to fight through are these people. Yeah, I'm willing to do that. And so I'd actually go bigger with a tighter stop. Does that make sense? And be going bigger with a tighter stop if we chop around for 10-15 minutes and then we do a quick wick down to this 567.50. If I'm here watching it, because I'm not in full size, it's not going to freak me out. And then if we whip right back, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't have a hard stop in, I don't have to do it. And this is stuff that I cannot do with a small account, and that's what makes it harder. And so now I have to relearn what I did with a small account so that it makes it safe and followable for you guys. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it still would have worked if we would have done 5 and 5. Like 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 the idea worked. The idea is fine. We got the idea. It's just the execution. It wasn't good. So if we're playing the 78, and it's like, man. So what goes through my mind is, I told him the 78. I need to teach him to stick with the 78, but I don't want to stop out. I think we should do the 130. Well, okay, and you got to have these rigid lines in the sand with these small accounts, because if you don't, then you're not keeping yourself safe. And so, yeah, there was a bunch of different ways that we could have hit this with a small account safely. I have to figure out how to do that. Does that make sense? So we could have bought 1 1 1 1 1 1. We could have bought 5 and 5, and that's again the reason I'm buying so far out is so that we can do this stuff. And so what I'm learning here is, especially now with the volatility, is I am being too rigid in my safety. Does that make sense? I wasn't full size on the SPY. Like I still would have been able to buy 5 more. I was willing. That's what I was willing to do. Maybe I was over. Maybe I was too big on it. But that's was the setup to begin with. I thought maybe we can get 10. Let's buy 5 here, and let's buy 5 at the lower Bollinger Band, 55, etc., etc., etc. But I didn't. Bet it all on red. So does that make sense, Efren? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, and go ahead. Process. Yeah, right. Because like I'm trying to walk that balance, and I just have to learn it. I have to learn that balance. I have to relearn it as a newer trader. And that's why I talk through what I'm thinking and the ideas, because you don't have to follow me in what I'm doing, like what I'm trading. You can use my words. Like the same thing happened on XBI earlier, right? When we were trading XBI, it's like I bought further out somewhere in here, right? And it worked. It bounced up, but I was too rigid in the safety, even though I was buying further out. And in my normal account, it's like, yeah, I captured the win. But in the smaller account, I missed it, and it's because of I don't know if even this is a word, the rigidity, being too rigid with stop. So if you play this bounce at the 568 retest level, guys, this again would be a profit taking level for the scalp play. What does that mean? I don't know. When did I say it? Uh huh. I was more focused on teaching. Yeah, that's it. So like here's okay. I just typed up my alert. Let's put it through. Obviously, I'm going to make a mistake, and Melinda's going to have to come in here and say, "Hey, what does this mean?" I'm going to have to go back and fix it. Is that going to be enough time for everybody to come in here and look at this and say, "Oh, okay, this is a trade I want to take"? Or is it more important that I say to you, "Hey, this is what's happening. This is why this is my risk. This is why I'm not willing to take it down here." And in my mind, that's more important, because that gives you the opportunity to take the trade if you want it. And then I don't know. And if I should not do that, then by all means tell me. Say, Donnie, stop worrying so much about teaching us. Teach us after the fact instead of live, and make the trade. If that's what you would rather me do, I can kind of have that paradigm shift and try it. Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Everybody does. So yeah, so it's like, especially when I'm not in DPL, like if I'm just in here with you guys, it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. We'll get your teachings afterwards. You'll make a video. We'll explain it afterwards. Whatever. Make money right now. Okay, I can shift my focus. Yeah. No, that's incorrect. You're right. You're right. But what's the 85% rule? It's not VWAP. You said 85% chance it rejects VWAP. That's not true. Through what? Yes. Okay. So the 85% chance today that we do not get over 169.18. Yep, that's correct. So if you're bearish here, Zach, let's set up a bearish trade that would keep you safe. So if you think the market's going to roll back over and you think Google's going to roll back over with it, put on a trade. But put on a trade that we can keep you safe. When does that break? When would you stop out of that short position? Okay, great. Why? Okay, there you go. And so, great, put it on. Yeah, take a shot at it. For me, my stop out would be 166.86 ish. So 166.80 to 167. And the other stop out would be exactly what you just said, but it would be because it's breaking above a VWAP. So I'd make the choice between the two. I think both of them are fine. And then the next level, if that breaks, what do you think I'm going to do? If that breaks and I stop out, it doesn't matter. No. This is it. It doesn't matter. I don't. It does. Stop saying that. I'm not totally. Nobody's totally confident that what's going to happen. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be totally confident to make money. If it breaks up and through this, guess what? I'm going to try it again at 168. I'm going to try the short again at 168 because of exactly what you said. The odds of it breaking back and through the highs are 15%, right? And so, again, I think there are ideas that you come up with, and you don't do it because you have the PTSD of losing a lot of money. And you, again, this could be incorrect. It seems that you refuse to do what I've asked you to do on proving to yourself that you can read a chart. And instead of shorting 1, 2, or 3 shares like what Ryan was saying, you're more interested in trying to make the money now for whatever reason. And that's what's prolonging your ability to actually make money. Like, for example, if you were to short 2 shares right now, are you going to even give a rat's rear about what happens? Not at all. Who cares? But if you can short 2, 5 shares, whatever, one contract, you know what I mean? Like, if you can get 60 to 65% of the time being right and doing that, over a 2-week period, bro, when the right play comes along, you'll be like, I'm putting in 100 contracts. I'm going to double my account. You know what I mean? And that's what it takes. So what I would encourage you to do, again, is, yeah, just take a shot. Risk control, take a shot. Let's do it. Let's get it. Like, you got to get on the freaking horse, man. But you don't get on the horse with 10 contracts. You don't pick. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Son of Spy. Okay, so here back to the SPY trade, right? If you are scalping this and playing this, what's everybody's thought on the direction of the market today? Like, do you think from this point right here, right now, do you think we fade up, fade down, or go up, go down, trade sideways? You agree? Yes? One of those? So in my mind, the way that I see it is, who's on the ropes today? Like, who got punched in the face? Yeah, the Bulls did, right? So who's going to be finicky today? The Bulls. Bulls are going to be a little bit more finicky. You have people like me that try bouncing it and they're like, ooh, ee. And so we're like, we got to tighten up our stops. We got to be a little bit safer. You know, there's a lot of selling going on, right? So the Bulls are going to be a little bit more finicky. So what that means is instead of dips being bought, I think you're going to have panic. So if we start to break the low of 568 here, I think you'll get a little bit of panic and it will roll over and push. So I think if we break this 568, I don't think 567.50 is necessarily going to hold now. I think you'd probably wash it back down to 567 because just the state of where we are. Okay, does that mean that we shouldn't try to be bullish today? No, that just means tighten up your stops so that you don't partake in a panic. Some days I'll be like, man, these dips, they just keep getting bought, right? Boom, boom, boom. Let's buy this dip. Let's buy this breakdown. Today's not one of those days. Yes, absolutely. So here's the thing, though. Like, it's easy to read and then understand a 3-minute, right? 5-minute, and all that kind of stuff. But the way that I trade and the way that I've always traded using the 1 minute, 15-second charts is I'm trying to get the very best entry so that I can scalp out small portions, 50 cents, 25 cents, so that I can relax that fear in my brain. And so if we were to switch to a 3-minute chart on that chart that I posted above about the pullback to, 568, right? If I would have posted the 3-minute chart or the 1-minute chart, would VP have changed at all? The answer is no. And so your entries and exits aren't going to change. Now, if you're playing a 78-minute chart, they will. But the difference between 1, 3, and 5, you're not going to change your entries and exits. I get a better detail on a 1 minute than I do a 5. But you can swap, right, from a 1 minute to a 5 minute to a 10 minute to a 15 and say, hey, here's some patterns setting up. 100% absolutely. But within those patterns, it's not going to change where I want to enter or exit. Does that make sense? So Zach, on Google, what you need to be doing right here, right now, is saying, when am I in the driver's seat, and where should I cover? And what that means is, when am I in the driver's seat? It's when are all the longs pissed, right? So we got to go back red. We got to go back green to red, and we got to get underneath 166. If we're chopping in between 166 and 166.50, nobody's happy. You know what I mean? It's just, we're just consolidating. It's like, who's going to win? No, we don't know. We got to get above that 166.50 for the shorts to be pissed. We got to get below 166 for the longs to start freaking out. But where we should already have in our mind where if it does break down this 166, where's the bounce going to come from? Yeah, so if it breaks down this 166, what is the next level that you should see a bounce on? Like where should we see a bounce? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep, right. And so we've got this if then statement that says if it comes down here, you should get a bounce, and if this is where you decide, hey, if you've got one contract, do I want to cover it out? If I've got two, do I want to take partials? And then what should happen after that? If it bounces off a 166, 50, 60 area, what should be the next thing that happens? Anytime you break down, you should do what? Or up. Anytime that you break down or up, what should happen? You should always get the, starts with an R. You should always get the retest. So if it does bounce off that 560, that 165, 60, 50 area and push back up into 166, that's your retest. And so that's another opportunity to add a short. And so, like for me, if I had one contract, what I'd do is I'd say, all right, I'm going to cover at 165, 60. And then if it bounces back up to 166, I'll probably take a short between 166 and 166.15. And then I'll risk the same thing that you were risking beforehand, but you've already scalped out 60 cents of profit. And so now it's a free trade. Man, my dogs stink. Why are you so stinky? Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna stop this.